welcome back everybody to
Welcome back.
Two Average Guys. We are here in our fourth season of doing Two Average Guys and discussing college football here. So very, very excited to be back and be with you.
Might be our third different venue as well.
Third different venue, and so very excited to talk college football with you and let you know what we got on tap this year. So
welcome back.
A few different changes this year for Two Average Guys. I'm still Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
So we're still Two Average Guys.
Yes.
But really want to talk about a few things going on in college football. Just kind of get things going at the beginning of the season. I know we still have I think about 70 days left, so
we're getting 2 months.
We're getting close. Never too early to talk college football though, so we'll bring that to you and get talking about some of the players to watch out for this year. A few new things to look out for Two Average Guys. We do have a podcast we're doing this year, so be on the lookout for that. I know some of you aren't much of the viewers, but you don't have a problem with listening while you're at work. So
you don't really want to sit here and watch us drink beer.
I mean, it's kind of cool, but whatever. To each their own. But we'll go ahead and talk some college football today. We're going to try to get as many guests on as possible this year. Hopefully we'll have a few visitors that will want to come and actually sit with us and talk as well. But we'll see. We'll see what we can get. I know we got a phone call next week. Which we got our second phone call. Last year we had Adam Carricker. We'll try to get him again this year.
Cool.
And then we're going to have Ashley Farrell next week, ex-Husker Scarlet and Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. So that should be pretty exciting as well. She's going to call in, avid Husker fan. So that should be fun. So listen up next week. It'll be our second episode next week, and we'll get her live on the phone and talk a little Husker football. So
yes.
We'll get to the Huskers for all you Husker fans out there. Don't worry. Still going to talk to Huskers, but first we're going to get through some other teams first. Obviously, you got your preseason rankings out, which we know never really mean anything, but they kind of do mean something because we all know exactly what happens when it comes to college football and the rankings. Those who start up in the top 10, if they have a decent season, even with one loss, have a much better chance of staying in the top 10. And having a good chance at that college football playoff, or at least a New Year's Six Bowl, and have a really good season. So
right, and then some of the teams, 15 to 25, or even maybe just right outside the preseason top 25. A win against one of these teams early on does a lot for you, especially right away. And then even throughout the season, it seems like, they beat Georgia. Well, then Georgia drops out, or what? Beat Auburn, and they have 4 losses, or whatever it is. But
real quick, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, we'll touch on the top 14 teams that, to me, actually have a legitimate chance this year at being up in that top 5 to probably finish out in the, potentially in the college football playoffs. So I want to start there. But before we do that, let's look at the teams just outside the top 25. Because I think that's going to be just as important, because there's a couple of those teams where people are like, they have a shot at actually having a really good season this year. Even I guess a comeback season, if you will. One of those teams is South Carolina. So South Carolina is sitting there at 25. They're saying that they're going to have a good year, but yeah, they do always say that. But they always have sparks of greatness throughout the year, but they never really come full bore at you. So South Carolina is sitting just outside top 25. You got Oregon out there, Texas A&M. You have Texas. So Texas, once again, one of those teams. They're young.
They definitely got a great coach. He's getting them kind of back on track, like we hopefully will with Frost.
Yep.
I feel like he was the coach at that particular time that everybody wanted.
Yep. Oh yeah.
That ended up at Texas, and he can do great things there.
Yeah, he did great with Houston. Now he's doing decent in Texas, and he's
around,
brought a young team.
Right.
So, or not brought, he inherited a young team. So he's got a lot. He still has recruiting to do. He's got a lot of things that he needs to do on his end to get these kids matured and through the process of being those great football players, because they do have a lot of talent on their team. As much as they hate the Longhorns, they have the talent. They got a good quarterback. They got a couple good wide receivers. Their defense is going to have to shore up, and I think their offensive line is where they're hurting. So
I mean, as it is everywhere, it doesn't change overnight. You can't go from being a bad team to an amazing, playoff caliber team overnight or over one season. It's going to take a few years. Hopefully, Husker fans can get that through their heads that it's not going to be that way. Frost isn't going to take us to the playoff the first year, guys. That would be unbelievable if he did. But
let's have realistic goals.
Yes.
And so after that, you got Boise State. falling in just ahead of Texas. Boise seems to always find their way in the top 25. You don't really hear too much about them throughout the entire year. They weren't the Boise State from years ago when they did the Statue of Liberty, and they did all these sweet plays, and were all about trick plays, and ended up being really good in the BCS
they had Peterson as their coach then, and I was at Washington.
So in the BCS era, they were all about talking about Boise State. They've kind of trickled away, but they're still there because they seem to be in the top 25 quite often.
Well, and as you'll see with UCF and some of these teams that aren't Power 5, you don't have a shot at the playoff at this particular time until it goes to 8.
Yeah.
But unless they change it to 8, it's the only way that I ever shot.
Like I said, until it goes to 8, we might have talked about that a little bit as well.
Okay, we can do that.
Then you got TCU just in front of them, and then Auburn. Now, Auburn's a big surprise to me. So I know they lost some guys after last year, but remember, Auburn was playing for the SEC championship game. They could have been in the playoff if they beat Georgia.
Very easily could have.
But they lost that game, and then in the New Year's Six Bowl, they lost to UCF.
In a great game.
And now they're not even – they're just inside the top 25, which to me is kind of crazy that they're sitting at 19.
I don't know how many off the top of my head, how many players they lost. I know that they're a really good running back. Kerryon Johnson is gone.
Yep, it's true.
And he was – the style that they play is, they RPOs and a lot of options and a lot of running. Just – with all the coaching changes in the SEC and it's tough.
Yep. You got UCF who beat them in the New Year's Six Bowl, Scott Frost team. They're just ahead of them. Then you got a surprising USC, not inside the top 10 this year, even the top 12. That's very surprising because they seem to always be up there in the top 12.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But they're not in there this year. Mississippi State, and then you got Virginia Tech sitting at number 15. So some of those teams, it's like, we'll see what they do. They've had some good seasons in the past. Some other teams that I'm a little surprised that are in the top 25 that seem to always find their way, no matter what kind of season they had the year before. I know they go off recruiting classes, so they must have had some really bad recruiting classes, or they're just not really seeing them have any bounce back years. So Florida, biggest problem with Florida, yes, new coach, but one of their biggest problems always has been quarterback/offense. Their defense is what wins them games when they win games. So I think that has a lot to do with it, and a new coach probably has a lot to do with it.
Yep.
Tennessee.
New coach.
Not only that, but that was a fiasco that went on in the offseason. And I think that hurt them recruiting-wise. They were touting some of those recruits.
They lost Adrian Martinez to Nebraska.
Yeah, they did. So Tennessee lost some guys. Lost some recruits due to just the whole fiasco they had going on in the offseason and the whole coaching carousel. 10 different guys decided they were just going for wherever they could. And they really messed that up. Their AD really screwed up, and I'm sure they're glad he's gone, which he was only there for, 3-4 months. So it wasn't there very long.
It was really bad.
But Tennessee's not in there. Florida State is also not in there. So, yes, new coach. So, in UCLA, not in there. New coach. So, it seems like all the teams with new coaches aren't even in the top 25. Or not all the teams, but some of the bigger coaches, bigger teams, except you do have Texas A&M. You got Jimbo Fisher. He found himself in the top 25, but still, he's not 25. He's still down. He's just inside the top 25. So, I think there's a lot of changes in college football this year that is affecting the rankings, but you still have those teams in the top 10 that we're used to seeing over the last 3-4 years. I mean, there's nothing new with the Alabamas, the Clemsons. You got Washington. You got Washington. Even Oklahoma's a little surprising. That last couple of years, but before that, they were kind of sitting outside the top 15 for the most part. So you got some teams up there that aren't surprising, but you got the Washington. Michigan State's climbing back up there. Wisconsin, you got 4 Big Ten teams inside the top 10. So that's a pretty big deal for the Big Ten Conference.
And guess what? We play all of them. And guess what? 3 of them are on the road.
Yeah, so we got a tough road this year. We got probably the toughest schedule this year.
One of the toughest.
So it should be interesting to see how it plays out. But I'm really excited about this year just because there are so many changes that happen in the offseason. I'm going to try to be a little less biased this year. It's probably not going to happen. And I say that every year. But I feel like there's so many good things going on right now with college football, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with the new coaches. How's it going to play out? What do we got?
Oh, Score Husker Nation just said, whoa, look who has a new background. Yes, bought a house this winter. This is my house.
Yes, so we're no longer in the Wellwood basement.
We're in the Jankowski basement.
We're still in the basement, but no one's parents' basement, not my basement. And we got at least a wall behind us instead of random stuff. So thanks for noticing, Cornhusker Nation. If you guys aren't following them, make sure you follow them as well. So let's talk about some of the players for those. We'll talk about Huskers, of course. That'll be the last thing to cover. It usually is. Plus, we're early in the season, so
unless we have a 4-8 season, and then we just want to get it out of the way, so we can talk about fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about. We'll start number one, Alabama. So last year, I think the biggest story with Alabama had to be the quarterback situation at the end of the season, and not really the end of the season. One game,
right?
Championship game.
And
what happened in that game?
Well, before we get to that, they were a frustrating team last year because they pretty much just rolled everybody up. I mean, early on.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just coasted, didn't really need to do that much. But then they lost to Auburn, still get into the playoff because Auburn lost in the conference championship.
Yep.
And Ohio State won the conference championship, but they had lost bad to Iowa. So Alabama sneaks in, and then
they didn't show up against Iowa. They weren't even there.
They might not even. But so Alabama sneaks in, and technicalities, and as the 4 seed, and then they win, and it's just really frustrating. But yes, they won the championship. Jalen Hurts was not playing very well in the first half. I don't know, was it the first half, or was it like first 3 quarters?
You forget. I didn't watch a single second of that game.
That's right.
Because I was so mad that Alabama made it the championship game.
That it was Alabama and Georgia.
I didn't even care that Georgia was there. I did not think
that's
Alabama
right. I was texting you and you were like, yeah,
not
I
watching.
care.
I was watching hockey, I think. Anyways.
It's better to watch anyway.
So all I know, just from reading up on it, is this Tua from Hawaii. Vanderbilt transfer, right? I believe he was a Vanderbilt transfer. Either that or he had a really good throw against Vanderbilt. One of the two. They didn't play Vandy.
I thought he was just a freshman.
They didn't play Vandy, did they? So he would have been. I think he's a transfer from Vandy. I could be wrong there, but check my facts. Someone wants to. But he came from there to a Hawaii native. He showed his arm off. He was 14-24 for 166 yards, and
he was a beast in that championship. The
second half, the game-winning touchdown pass was huge.
Yep, in the overtime. So he came in because Jalen Hurts. Yeah, he was struggling, but it's not like Jalen Hurts had a stellar year. He's not a flashy quarterback. He's not going to show his arm off. He doesn't have one. When you have an offensive line like Alabama, you probably could have thrown Tanner Lee back there last year.
Yeah.
He couldn't run, obviously, but he probably would have been pretty decent.
They led every single team, it wasn't even close. By a landslide, their defense led every team in turnovers and pick 6, turnaround for 7 points. They had so many turnovers that led to touchdowns, whether it was on the turnover or right after the turnover where they went down and scored. So their defense really helped them last year, and that's Alabama. They have good defenses every year.
Right.
We know that. Everybody knows that if you watch Alabama. But Jalen Hurts and Tua, they're saying Jalen Hurts is still going to be the starter. To me, Tua has proven in one game that he can win. He's a good player. But we haven't seen him much else. The only other time he played last year was in games where they were just outscoring teams, and he showed he could play.
Was Jalen Hurts trying to transfer somewhere? Could he grad transfer?
I don't think he was trying to transfer somewhere.
Okay.
I
think people were talking
about.
People
were saying that he should think
about it.
I don't think that was ever in his head. I think that was a lot of made up rumors going around.
And I think I also heard too that Tua's younger brother committed to Alabama. I guess I get it, but he's a quarterback as well. Are you gonna you're gonna go to the same school like a year or two after your brother? And are you really gonna play?
Yeah.
I guess if your brother's a couple years older than you, you go in and learn from him, and then for the last couple seasons you can be the starter or whatever. If it was me, I'd probably be like, I want to go somewhere so I can play against him.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. So Cornhusker Nation, we'll get back to you here in just a minute on that when we start talking about the playoff situation. That'll be right before we talk about the Huskers. So we'll get there.
Hello, Grandma McGee.
It's not the first time I've heard someone bring this up, and it might have been you, Cornhusker Nation, that brought this up as well. But we'll touch on that about the thoughts on the different possibilities for extending the playoff and extending the college football season. So we'll get there.
Sure.
Number 2, Clemson. So you got Kelly Bryant returning at quarterback. He got hurt and they ended up losing to Syracuse last year when he got hurt. He didn't have a great rebound after that, but Clemson, once again, another team with a good defense and a good enough offense to still play well enough to get to where they needed to be at the end of the season.
And, well, that everything you said is true and correct. One side note, interesting, especially if you're a Big Ten if you're in the Big Ten West or a fan of a team in the Big Ten West, they had the number 1 recruited quarterback that was a redshirt last year, Clemson.
That's right.
And he transferred to Northwestern.
He did.
And he's going to be able to play there for 3 years.
Yep.
I think he has to sit out this year, but he's going to be able to play for 3 years. So
for a Northwestern team who really hasn't had it, they've had good
Clayton
quarterbacks.
Thorson's pretty good. I mean, he's going to... Actually, I don't know. That kid might even be able to play right away, but Thorson's going to be playing.
He's got to sit out.
Okay.
Yep.
Either way, I mean, there's going to be some pretty good talent in the Big Ten West.
Well,
it's only for the better, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, I think the more and more the Big Ten shows up every year like they have the last couple of years, last 3-4 years, it's something where they're going to get some of those transfers that, hey, there's a lot of competition ahead of me. I'm really good. I got recruited to come here, but guess what? I'm not going to play for a couple of years. I might go to another school where I might be able to get on a little bit earlier and show what I got, or at least be able to compete for a starting job and have an opportunity. So,
yep.
But another person on Clemson is Christian Wilkins, defensive end. He had 16 tackles for loss, or 26 tackles for loss last year. So he's another guy on that defense, that good defense, that's going to be someone that we're going to want to watch this year.
Real quick before we move on, Alabama and Clemson. Can we not have either one of you guys make the playoff this year? Because I think you guys made it every single time.
Yeah, let's stop that. Ohio State. So biggest thing on Ohio State right now is J.K. Dobbins, their running back. So J.K. Dobbins, I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere, and he came like a freight train. I remember the first game he came in, I saw him run the ball. I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to kill everybody in his way.
Yeah.
I mean, just a freight train. You think of like a guy like Bettis, Jerome Bettis in the NFL. Man, when he plays, or when he played, he was just running over people. Mike Allstott, fullback for the Buccaneers back in the 90s.
That's why I'm a Bucs fan.
Allstott was
because of him.
just running through guys. So this is going to be, I think J.K. Dobbins, as much as I hate Ohio State, I think J.K. Dobbins is one of those guys, not only does he have speed, but he can run through people.
Right.
He doesn't try to go around people. He doesn't try to spin around them. He breaks tackles.
Plus,
he lowers his shoulder, just runs through people.
Plus, Ohio State has, every year has a good recruiting class. So they're going to have, an offensive line in front of them and playmakers, wide receiver and quarterback that opens up.
But they got 2 sophomore quarterbacks battling right now for the top position. So one of them is what's his name? Oh, Dwayne Haskins. So Haskins,
he's gonna start.
I think Haskins is good. We're gonna see what he can do this year. Ohio State didn't lose a lot this last year. They had a pretty young team to begin with, but they lost some defensive guys. We'll see what happens. I think Ohio State, I think they're going to be good again this year because they have been. Urban Meyer always does a good job recruiting as much as I don't like him.
We're going to give you a better game this year, though, than we had the last couple.
We're not going to lose by 63.
No.
Or give up 63, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, Georgia. So you got the running back, DeAndre Swift. He's a sophomore. He's got speed and he's got power. And then you got Jake Fromm, who's going to be entering his sophomore year.
And they should have been national champs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you didn't watch the game. I watched the game. They should have been national champs.
All I knew is they were up at half and never should have lost.
So, I mean, I'm sure they lost plenty of guys. I'm sure they had a good recruiting class.
Yep.
I think they did have one of the top, if not the top.
Well, remember, Fromm was out for a little bit last year, so I think he's coming back with some vengeance this year.
Yeah.
He wants it.
They're going to be good.
Yeah.
I know for sure that Georgia's going to be good this year.
Absolutely. All right, sitting at number 5 is Oklahoma, so no more Baker Mayfield. He's off to Cleveland to be their next quarterback who fails.
No real pick.
I don't get it. Anyways, if you haven't watched, you should see him on The Herd with Colin Cowherd. If you haven't watched, only because it's hilarious. I don't like Baker Mayfield, but Colin was trying to say that he's not about his teammates. He's a selfish guy, which I've never agreed with that. I never thought he was a selfish person. It was in the Ohio State game on one of the plays that they scored on. He ran over to point to the fans before joining his teammates, and he was calling them out, but he only showed like 5 seconds of the clip. And Baker Mayfield sits back, and he's like, you want to show the rest of the clip? You want to show the rest, Colin?
Okay.
Because right now you're saying I'm a selfish player. when that's not true at all. Watch the rest of the clip. And Colin was just like, like, what do I say? Like,
it's fantastic.
He called him out. I'm like, man, for him to do that, like, that's such a jackass thing to do, but it was so hilarious.
Because what happened in the rest of the clip?
Huh? Well, he joined his teammates and celebrated with his teammates. So all he showed was the 5 seconds where he went to point to the crowd and then go. So he's like, what do they do in the NFL? They celebrate. So I was celebrating with my fans. And, they're like, it's kind of like the Lambeau Leap. What do? They don't go to their teammates. They run to the fans, jump on, and do the Lambeau Leap with the fans, and then they go to their teammates. I mean, he was comparing it to that. So to me, that was really funny that Colin tried to call him out, and Baker's like, no, this ain't happening. This is my show. As much as I don't like the guy, but that was pretty fun. Anyways, Baker's gone. They got Kyler Murray at quarterback. Kyler Murray. So I'm sure he played a little bit last year, but what's really funny is he just signed a $4.6 million deal with the Oakland Athletics to play Major League Baseball.
What was he, like 8th or 9th overall pick or something?
He was up there, but it's funny is he's not going to play baseball yet. He's going to play football.
Yeah, they're going to let him play.
And he's going to play next year. So he's going to play for the A's next year.
That's pretty insane. I would think as a Major League Baseball organization that your investment here in this prospect, that you would not want him to play college football quarterback and risk, concussions or torn ACLs or a number of different things.
Shoulder injury.
Does he play? Is he pitcher or is he?
I know
I looked it up, but I can't remember.
That'd be my guess, but.
I thought that was interesting. I mean, cool. I guess we'll see how good you are.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of guys, a lot of the specialists out there, college football guys, they're saying potential Heisman candidate. I haven't even seen the guy throw the ball. I haven't seen him on the field. But if he's that good, Oklahoma honestly could be a fun team to watch this year. I want to see a little defense. I want to see some defense in the Big 12. I don't want to see all 60, 70 points scored a game.
That's the case every year.
It is. Washington, so they got Myles Gaskin as their running back. He rushed for over 1,300 yards in all 3 of his seasons so far, so he's entering his senior season with 3 really good years on his resume. See what they can do here coming into his senior year. But Washington kind of came out of nowhere last year. No one saw him coming.
Was Browning a junior?
Yep.
So he will be back?
I think Browning's coming back as a
senior. He's been really good every year.
Yep.
So
Browning's been good as well. So
Washington, pretty decent Pac-12. The problem with the Pac-12 is that they beat each other up.
They do.
They play each other. They play their way out of the playoff. And there's one other topic that I will want to get to later on, just about conferences and conference schedules and stuff that we'll talk to.
Yeah, we'll get there. Miami's sitting in at number 8. So Miami was kind of a surprise last year as well. I think there's some people out there saying Miami could have a good year, but they're also one of those teams where they rely on their defense. They had a decent quarterback.
Their quarterback's good,
but he really kind of under those big games, under the big lights, he didn't come through.
He's a good quarterback.
Horrible.
I think.
What was his last name, Rozier?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, good call.
Yeah,
he had a big game against Notre Dame.
You really want to go there?
No.
You want to go there?
No.
Okay, I don't want to go there either.
All right.
Because I don't want to piss people off.
All right. Well,
no, but he did.
I just
he
mean,
did.
like,
he had a good game.
You said under the lights, he didn't, and he had a big game there, but down the stretch,
that's what I was, down
as the season wore on, he struggled in a couple of games, especially ACC championship.
When it mattered most,
ACC championship,
he didn't come through. And the ACC championship, I mean, he threw like 4 picks, I think,
something
in that
like
game.
Yeah.
So look for him to have a bounce back year. He seems like one of those guys who's going to fight. Young kid, he's got a lot going for him. Miami's offense, not stellar, but that quarterback, Rozier's going to have a big influence on how their offense does this year. On the defensive side of the ball, you got Jaquan Johnson. He had 96 tackles. He's their safety. 96 tackles last year.
I wonder if he's playing some type of like
a linebacker safety role.
Nickelback role or something where he's just...
Either that or they blitzed him all the time. He never played safety. He was always up. But
that's crazy because... Yeah,
But he had 4 picks. He had a few forced fumbles and a couple fumble recoveries. So he's a good guy out there. He's someone that they need in the defensive backfield. I think their offense is going to be the biggest question more than anything else this year. Their defense did okay last year, but I think it helped them more than it hurt them. Rozier's going to have a good year for Miami. Then you got Michigan State. So they have a
there's some hype. There's some hype going on Michigan State this year, or preseason.
Yeah, preseason hype. They have a 6'4", 200-pound senior in Felton Davis. Big dude, wide receiver. He's not even their tight end. He led their team in catches, touchdowns, and reception yards last year. He's one of those guys, 6'4", 200 pounds. He's going to be hard to cover for any safety that's not 6'2", 6'3", and has better ups than him. That's someone to watch for on their offensive side of the ball. So that could be interesting for Michigan State. But, yeah, Michigan State I didn't really see them being in the top 10 this year, but they must have a pretty decent recruiting class or young guys coming up this year that are going to be playing maybe a little bit more than they did last year. I don't mind seeing them ahead of Michigan, though.
That's for sure.
Michigan at number 10.
Right.
So, once again, this is a Jim Harbaugh team that there's hype around every year since Jim Harbaugh got there.
Well,
they have yet to really execute the hype, which is
no,
fine.
they really have not.
And it's not really the hype that they should execute. It's Jim Harbaugh coaching the team that he has to get to the potential that they have. And I just don't think there's so much focus always on one player. And this year, one of their defensive guys was just like what's his bugger from a couple of years ago that played linebacker and safety and played cornerback.
And he played running back.
Yeah, I mean, he played all over the place. And they have another guy just like that who's going to play linebacker and safety. And it's like, man, you got to have to set them in their spot. You got to have other guys behind them that can play these positions. I've never been bought into the Jim Harbaugh hype.
Right.
I just don't think he's a
He took
fantastic coach.
He took the 49ers to the Super Bowl, but it's a different ballgame. I mean, the teams have been good.
Yeah.
They've been good.
They've been good.
But they haven't exceeded, they haven't succeeded, I think, the way that people had anticipated.
Not only the
Especially
people, I think the university.
I mean, like, as like a college football as a whole.
Yes.
I think when he went in there, people were thinking he was going to win a national championship within 4 or 5 years, and that just, he hasn't gotten close.
Well, and the Big Ten's been a lot tougher the last 4 or 5 years.
Right, especially the Big Ten East.
Makes it a little harder.
And I know that rounds out the top 10, but we did miss Wisconsin at number 7.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, he's going to be pretty incredible. We're going to have to play some solid defense against them. I know that.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Wisconsin, another strong defensive team. They also have one of the best offensive lines in the country, and there's no doubt about that. They are good offensively in front of the quarterback, in front of the running back. And Jonathan Taylor, that only helps a guy who already has speed and power to bust through guys that try to get him.
And it's tough. It's tough to play against that. If you can do what Ohio State did in the Big Ten Championship, and you can slow that down.
Yep.
Wisconsin does struggle throwing the ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So...
Yeah, their quarterback is nothing to bat your eyes at.
And that's no easy task. Their offensive linemen are like 320 pounds each.
Yeah, they're not only one of the best, they're also the biggest.
Yeah, they're the biggest. And the guy, I don't know how you can be that big and move that well. But they're always good, and they always have running backs that, it would be interesting to see if some of these running backs were at other schools and didn't play behind that big of an offensive line. But... they're always going to be able to run the ball. So you got to figure out how to stop the run. That's how it used to be with Nebraska. I love that.
Hey, we'll get there.
We will.
Number 11, you got West Virginia. So they got Will Greer, probably going to be their starter, but they got David Stills right behind him. They're both the slingers on the team.
West Virginia's that high, huh?
West Virginia's at number 11. So once again, you got some guys that are maybe getting a little more mature, getting a little bigger, a little buffer, a little faster. And maybe they suspect them to have a pretty good year. But Will Greer sitting at the top as a quarterback. It should be pretty interesting. They have a running back that's coming in as a redshirt freshman. Not coming in. He's a redshirt freshman, and his name is Alex Sinkfield. They're thinking he's going to be really good. So I think that's part of the rankings too. Is they have this kid coming off the bench who hasn't played a game yet, but everything that was hyped about him ahead of time and getting recruited and being a redshirt, they're excited to see what he can do coming in off the bench as a redshirt freshman. So something to look out for West Virginia. They might be one of those sleeper teams where, they're number 11, so you can't really call them a sleeper. But who saw them coming in at number 11?
Yeah, but as far as, Big 12, I mean, they could be up there just like Oklahoma or TCU or Texas or whatever.
And they had a pretty good year last year. So
yeah.
All right, sitting at number 12, you got Notre Dame. So Notre Dame, you got Wimbush at the helm, quarterback. Now, it's something that's going to having to happen for him this year is a confidence builder. He's got some confidence to get built behind him because he had some good games, but he struggled more than he did have good games.
Yeah, he can be really good, and I think there might even be a quarterback battle.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure. I see things here and there, but it's tough because they always have good tight ends and they always have good offensive linemen. But two of the top offensive linemen in college football last year were from Notre Dame, and they both went to the NFL. So
I think they have the talent. I think
Josh Adams left as well.
Adams is gone, so you got Dexter Williams, a senior running back. So talk about going out high in your senior year. So he's going to come in. He's going to want to have a good year, and I think he's pretty decent. You got to see some field last year with Adams out. So
that's right. I forgot
very injury prone. So Dexter Williams has a good shot this year to kind of take that offense to a new level. Him and Wimbush, a good QB running back combination. And we know Notre Dame's defense is going to be pretty good. They always have a decent defense. And
they always have a tough schedule. And I think they play Michigan the first game of the year. And they play USC and Stanford every year and whatever. I know that they're going to have tough games. And
But I think Wimbush, for him, really to solidify himself as an elite quarterback that I think he can be, he's going to have to get that confidence first. And I think he lost a little bit of that last year with the season that he had. We'll see if he can regain some of that.
Coming out against Michigan, that'll be tough.
Yeah.
That'll definitely be tough. And
I'm not going to lie, I kind of hope they win that game.
Not going to lie, I really hope they lose that game.
I know you do. I'd rather see Harbaugh lose than Notre Dame.
No, that's a tough call. But if it comes down to it, I usually cheer for the Big Ten.
Yep. So, anyways, I think that should be a fun thing to watch this year is how Wimbush really matures after last year. Then you got Penn State in at number 13. So obviously the story around that is Saquon Barkley's gone, so they lost their quarterback running back combination, but they still got McSorley.
Right.
Now
he's really good.
Now I don't know who the running back is coming in after Barkley, but if it's not as good as Barkley, I think McSorley struggles.
Right.
Because he really relied on that option.
He was really good, but was he only really good because Saquon Barkley was the best running back?
Well, and he's your second option. If it's not you, it's him.
Right.
So who's that guy who's going to give him that confidence to pitch the ball?
And Penn State's been really good the last few years, and I think they've had pretty successful recruiting classes. Yeah. So I'm sure that they probably have some pretty good offensive linemen. They probably have some pretty good running backs.
They got a good defense again. So
yeah, they've turned a corner that hopefully we can turn.
Amen to that. All right, then at number 14 you got Stanford. So number 14 Stanford. Obviously you got Bryce Love. So Bryce Love, solid player, and Bryce Love. Thanks. So Bryce Love had a stellar year last year. He rushed for over 2,000 yards, over 2,100 yards. He's one of those guys that 162-point-some yards per game, and he got hurt for a little while too, but he still had a really good season. Stanford, the question is going to be the quarterback.
Right.
The other question is going to be their defense.
Yeah, because
they always have a pretty decent offensive line.
They always have a good offensive line and good run game.
And good wide receivers.
So,
it's gonna be the slinger.
I like Stanford better than USC, so as far as Pac-12 goes, I don't have a problem with Stanford. So, hopefully they have a good year, and I'm sure Bryce Love will.
So it's funny you mentioned the non-conference stuff, which we'll talk about before we get into.
Oh, you wrote something. But
I did. So I didn't really. I don't know. We'll get into it though here, but let's talk about non-conference, and then we'll talk about the playoff. And then we'll talk about the new redshirt rule. We'll talk about how that's going to play out and what that looks like this year, and then we'll go into Husker. So let's talk about non-conference schedule. So go ahead.
Actually, mine didn't have anything to do with non-conference.
Oh,
you go ahead with your non-conference take.
Well, so I was reading some stuff on non-conference schedules and how Oregon actually has the easiest non-conference. Their non-conference, they got Bowling Green, Portland State, and San Jose State, who had a combined 4 wins last year. Wisconsin's up there. They have Western Kentucky, New Mexico. Now BYU, that's not really. They're number 2. Wisconsin, they're shown number 2 as the weakest non-conference, but BYU is not usually a slack non-conference team to play.
I think they had
maybe it is this year though.
They had them last year, and I think they beat them.
I think they whooped them. But you look at Arkansas, they have a weak non-conference, which Arkansas I don't think is going to be a danger this year, but Alabama, weak non-conference. Auburn, those two teams, they always play like the Citadel or Mid-Tennessee State.
That's the thing. If there's one thing I will say about this topic, kind of two-part thing. One, I don't want teams to play it's not FCS now. It's 1AA.
1AA. Yeah.
I don't want to play those teams.
Yeah.
I don't want Nebraska to play those teams, and I don't want these other schools to play those teams because I like to watch good football.
Not one
and
team
then
crap
the second part of that is the SEC schedules those games the week before the rivalry.
Yeah.
So like Alabama plays the Citadel the week before they play Auburn. So then their guys can sit out the second half because they're up by 60 points or 40 points or whatever.
Well, and my biggest thing...
I hate that.
Yeah, well, if you're going to have the non-conference slack teams, if the NCAA isn't going to change anything around how the non-conference scheduling works and when they schedule their non-conference games, wouldn't you want to be at your peak at the end of the season? Because playing the Citadel, I mean, you want your guys to rest, but why wouldn't you play get your team ready to go at the beginning of the season like most teams do? But how are they? I don't know how they're allowed to schedule a team like the Citadel at the last game of the season.
They aren't getting punished for doing this, so it's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you schedule a cupcake game before your rival? Guys don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Guys aren't tired.
But
guys can sit out for the second half.
But they aren't the only one. There are other schools that are doing towards the end of the season. Right. You hear more about the SEC with the Alabama and the Auburn and the Georgia playing these crappy teams at the very end of the season. And that's where, yes, I would...
And it's because they're in the top 10.
I would much rather see those non-conference games be something like Nebraska and Colorado.
Yeah.
That's a good matchup. Michigan and Alabama. I mean, bring a game like that. I mean, those are the kind of games that people want to see. Nobody wants to see Nebraska play Troy. I'm sorry. Nobody, even Nebraska
and that was my other thing. And it's hard to say this, but it would be nice if at least 2 of your 3 non-conference games, I'd like all 3, but that's a little selfish of me. At least 2 of your non-conference games are Power 5 opponents.
Absolutely.
I think viewing would be better, and I don't know how big of a deal that is.
Because then you schedule whenever the hell you want to, and it's not a huge deal. But you schedule towards the end of the season. But
I get it. You want your guys to get some reps, new players, freshmen, or red shirts, or inexperienced players to play Troy or to play Akron or whatever. But
if I remember correct, I think there are some changes coming with non-conference scheduling over the next couple of years. It's not right away because a lot of these schedules are made 2-3 years in advance.
Right.
But I believe we have some changes coming for the non-conference scheduling. So hopefully that helps a lot of teams, or at least helps the viewers like us say, all right, this is college football. I don't want to watch someone get slacked by 60 points from the third-string guys.
Right. So leading into what I had wanted to talk about, this is a good point. It wasn't non-conference as much as conference scheduling. I was talking earlier about Pac-12, how they beat each other up.
Yep.
Okay. Pac-12 plays 9 conference games. Big 10 plays 9 conference games. Big 12 plays 9 conference games because there's only 10 teams, so they play everybody.
Yep.
SEC, ACC play 8 conference games.
Yep.
That's bullshit. Sorry. Come on now. It has to be consistent across the board because then they can schedule, maybe they'll schedule like Louisville or somebody, but then they'll also schedule Akron.
Yeah.
And then they schedule the Citadel late in the season.
Yeah.
While the rest of us are playing a conference game against Northwestern or Iowa or on the other side, Michigan State are playing or whatever.
Yep.
These teams are playing the Citadel.
Yeah. I think
it's not. I say it's not fair but they're only doing that because they're allowed to, because they're getting away with it, and they're not
so
punished for
yeah,
it.
so
Why wouldn't you? That's great.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, let's get some conference scheduling where you build some consistency. If you want, so many people talk about how the SEC is so favored and how the SEC, people love the SEC and people love Texas and people love this and that. But when you look at the NCAA and how they're regulating some of these games and the way college football is done, I mean, that's one of those things though you got to look at is there fairness and consistency across each Power 5 conference. If you don't have that consistency across all Power 5 conferences, then there's going to be some people that are going to bitch about it and be like, that's not fair. Why wouldn't the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Pac-12 complain about something like that? And maybe they have brought it up, but you don't hear about it. The SEC.
The thing about go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's why people see the SEC and now the ACC. They've had these power years over the last couple of years, and you got all these other teams kind of sitting on the outside looking in. Because, and part of it is scheduling. You have to be fair when you schedule these games and schedule your opponents to where every Power 5 conference, if that's how the playoff is going to be set up,
exactly.
with 4 teams, Power 5 is the only teams that have a chance of getting in, you got to make it fair.
Well, and they say, your strength of schedule is one of the one of the main components of why teams get into the playoff. Okay, well, I'm playing 9 conference games. And during, one of my biggest games of the year, this other conference is playing the Citadel, and they're not getting punished for that.
Yeah.
They're not. Their strength of schedule really isn't hurting because they're playing it so late in the year. They've already established that this team is where they are, and then they're playing somebody, and they beat them by 35 to 50 points or whatever. They're not getting punished for that because that wasn't at the beginning of the year. When they probably would get punished,
or vice versa. You got some of these teams that play the non-Power 5 out of conference games, and they're only winning by 35 when they should be winning by 60. There was one game, I think Alabama last year. I think they only won their game by like 28 points against either Mid Tennessee, either them or Auburn. Well, they only won by like 28 points, 21 points against one of those teams that really should have won up on.
But Tennessee State was pretty decent.
Yeah, but whatever team it was, I mean, those kind of games, if your starters are playing, you should really win those games by a landslide. And I don't even care if you only play part of the game. Your backups should also be able to play those teams and beat them by a landslide. So I think you got to put some weight in on that too. I think there's so many things with the NCAA that I think there's a lot of bias out there. You got the SEC network, which is part of ESPN. You have the Longhorn Network, part of ESPN.
Which Texas hasn't been up there, so that doesn't really matter.
That is what it is. But you have ESPN, who's a big part of that NCAA contract, that essentially is a big part of those teams, and they're on TV all the time. So Notre Dame has a TV contract with CBS. So in Notre Dame, yes, they have good teams every year. No, NBC, sorry. And yes, they have good teams every year. So you can't flaw them, because they have this. But it's not affiliated with someone like ESPN. So it's a little bit of different affiliation. So I don't know. I think there's still a lot of things they got to work out in NCAA. Some of them are big, some are minor. But I think that scheduling, the way it works, I think there's some changes coming. I'll have to look into that again, but I think it's going to be a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to have a committee decide, then all the Power 5 conferences should play the same amount of games. And I know some people have said, oh, well, then why don't we just have... Because when you play 9 conference games, you might miss out on the home game, and that loses your money. Yep. So people say, oh, well, then just go to 8. Well, that would screw up the Big 10 because they have 10 teams, 9 games is a perfect round robin. They play everybody.
But there's arguments for it. There definitely is arguments to expand the playoff. I'm not a fan of it, I'll tell you that much. But let's kind of kick into that. Before we even talk about what Cornhusker Nation asked here, we'll go into that in a second. Let's talk about the people that are voting. The committee itself.
Right.
You got people that are affiliated with certain schools, for one.
Right.
You got people that have nothing to do with college football, like Condoleezza Rice. Nothing to do with football.
Right, but at least, I mean, she's Stanford, but she's tied in with Stanford. But I feel like she's still at least not biased.
I feel like you should, and I don't know much about her, and I'm not trying to rag on her or not, but I think you have to have people that are in there that are to be honest, I wish there were people like you and I, like fans of the game that analyze as much as we do of each and every game and each and every play, and we're not buying.
You're not just like, okay, we want I went to Nebraska and Ohio State's a possibility to get into the playoff.
Yeah.
And I want a team from my conference to get into the playoff, so I'm going to pitch for them to make it.
I feel like there's more influence going on inside that room than people think. I think the people making the decisions to put an Alabama into the playoff picture, I think there's influence behind that. There has to be. There's no reason they should have been in, because their schedule was not strong last year. They're going to say their strength of schedule was strong, but if you look at the records of the teams that they played, they didn't have one of the toughest schedules.
Right.
And then
all those SEC teams were 7-5 to 8-4.
Exactly. And I think that there's always going to, until something changes with the way the committee is picked, I think there's always going to be some bias in there. And I think that makes it hard for people to really enjoy a 14 playoff when you have teams like the first year TCU didn't get in, and who was the other Big 12?
Ohio State made it in.
Yeah, and who was the other Big 12 team that were sitting out? It might have been Oklahoma. Baylor. Yeah. But TCU and Baylor had great years, and neither one of them got in. And then you got Ohio State that just kind of squeezed in a little bit. So is it because of ratings? Is it because, what exactly is that influence, and what are the deciding factors that put these teams in?
Is it because the SEC and the Big Ten have the most money, and they're the biggest powers of the Power Five?
Now we're throwing out conspiracy theories, but I feel like these conspiracy theories are also good theories, because you see the same thing happen every year where they're going to say it's a tough decision to put this team in over this team or vice versa. But Alabama should not have been in the playoff picture last year.
Well, and just like Ohio State probably shouldn't have been in, and they ended up winning that year too.
Yeah, because they say every year, and they have since the beginning.
That was a little bit different.
Yeah, but the criteria, the way they pick the criteria,
it changes every
who gets in. Yeah,
because Ohio State got in that one year because they said, "Oh, conference championship is big."
Yeah,
and they just won their conference championship 59-0.
Exactly.
And so that's why they got in. And then
it's like conference championship doesn't matter anymore.
Now Ohio State won the conference championship this year, but they had lost this bad game. And, Alabama lost a close game to Auburn. That would have sent them to the championship, and they only had one loss. And it's like, there just needs to be a lot more consistency.
And I'm not just saying this because of Scott Frost, but UCF, they deserved a chance last year. If any team was going to get in, Boise State should have been in. When you look at the BCS area, they should have deserved. Right. They deserved a shot. UCF deserved a shot last year,
right?
Because of who they beat.
That's why
two SEC teams that played for the conference championship, and they were undefeated in their season. Why the hell did they not get a chance? Because they're not Power 5.
And that's why.
That's exactly why.
That's why. And going into Cornhusker Nation, because what was your idea for this? 3 more weeks, extend the playoff to 8 or 16. I personally don't like 16. Let's see, axing non-conference games, splitting up the division.
One of the Power 5, conference and subdivisions. Okay. So I don't hate that idea of having, I guess, 2 separate championships. I don't think that's a bad idea of having like a sub-conference or a subdivision of potential champions in the Power 5. Not a bad idea. I don't think it'll ever happen. I really don't. 8 teams. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I honestly don't.
It's not going to happen for a few years because I think they're signing
contract
for
thing,
a certain amount of time.
I like the 14 playoff, and I'm always going to bitch about it every year. I know that. I just don't know the right way to do an 18 playoff. Yes, you can have all Power 5 conference champions, but what if they have 2 losses? And what if the 2 losses weren't that great? So I think there has to be some stipulations around it.
Okay. My thing is, you have an 18 playoff.
Okay.
And I've probably said this on the show before, but this is my thing. Every Power 5 champion, okay? They don't have to be ranked 1 through 5 for the quarterfinal. They don't have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
The Power 5 champs. You have those 5. You have a group of 5 team. UCF last year would have gotten in. And you know what? that team is probably going to be 8 every year. That's just what they're. Mm-hmm. That's probably what they would do. That team would be ranked 8th every year. I like that too, Zon. And then you get 2 at-larges.
Yeah.
An at-large is a team that, okay, maybe you're number 1, number 2, number 3, and you'll lose your conference championship game by 3 points.
Yeah.
Then maybe you fall into that 4, 5, 6, 7 range. That's my thing. I don't know.
So Nick, I appreciate you bringing this up. I honestly think you're the first person I've seen ever mention a 16 playoff.
I have seen that with the first 2 teams getting buys, and I have liked that as well.
That's actually if you're going to expand it, I think that might be one of the best ideas to have 6 teams because
5 conference champs with either a group of 5 or an at-large.
Yep. And then the 2 buys. And I don't even know if the Power 5 champs, I don't even know if you follow that.
You don't necessarily have
criteria. But if you look at the last 5 years now, 4 years playoffs been in place, 4 or 5 years? 4 years. I was down in Dallas though. 2015 was the first year because the playoff was down there. So if you look at that and what we've seen over the last few years with the playoff, how it's hammered out is the top 6 teams are always very worthy of getting in. And you don't always have a Power 5 team in the top 6. So there's some validity to that. Or you have 2 teams from the Big Ten or 2 teams from the SEC. Whatever it might be, you throw the top 6 teams, the best 6 teams in the country, the way they're ranked. As long as they deserve to be ranked there, I think you have an opportunity for a good playoff picture where, yes, you get a bye, and then you play the winners. And
that's true. Because, all right, for instance, can you look it up and see what the final 6 was at the end of the playoff rankings last year?
Yep.
Let's just take a look at that. Let's see. Georgia was Clemson was number 1. Oklahoma was number 2. Georgia was number 3. Alabama was number 4.
Auburn was up there.
Ohio State.
And Ohio State. So that's not a bad playoff picture.
Right. So you get Clemson and Oklahoma buys. You do a Georgia versus Ohio State or Georgia versus Auburn and Alabama. Actually, that would have been really fun.
Yeah, I think that would have been like that. So I think there's some opportunity to look at the way it's done, the way the selection happens. I think you got to have people in that war room that they call it that are really not just fans of the game, but I guess the fans want to know what the criteria is. I think that's the biggest thing is what are you going on?
Does Alabama have to lose 2 games to not make the playoff?
Yeah.
Whether they win the conference championship.
Yes.
Obviously, they lost the game, didn't win the conference championship. They didn't go to the conference championship.
I don't think the criteria should change every year. I don't think it should. I think you base it on 4 or 5 different factors. If this happens where a team has 1 loss, what gets them in? If this happens, what gets them in?
Right.
I think you got to set some guidelines and the parameters to where people are going to actually think that the people making those decisions in that war room know what they're talking about. Because, of course, Alabama fans are happy. No one else in this country that is not an Alabama fan thought that was the right decision last year.
Yeah, everybody's pissed. I was pissed.
So, and I don't speak for everybody, but when I say everybody, but everybody. So, I think there's still some things to do there. I would not be surprised if we expanded to an 18 playoff. I don't think that's the answer. I honestly would rather see a 16 playoff. So 8 is too many. Exactly, Nate. That's what I feel. Last 4 years, the teams that were ranked 7, 8 in the final poll, I'm guessing they weren't as deserving. But that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Miss you studs. Enjoy the show. Thanks, Al. It's good stuff.
That's right, Nick.
Stay together sometime, buddy.
Anyways, yeah, I think if you look at the teams that were ranked 7 and 8, and that's kind of where I'm going with is those teams that are 7 and 8. Are they deserving to be in the championship?
That is true. But the thing, I mean, if you look at other sports, college football isn't like any other sport. Every other sport, basketball has 64 teams. I mean, the hockey has 16 teams in the college hockey tournament. They only have like 60 college hockey teams.
You can go 8 and 8 in the NFL and still make the playoffs.
Exactly. You can go 7 and 9 and make the playoffs.
You can go. That's true.
There's nothing like college football where if you lose a game, literally now that we have the playoff, there's more of a chance that you can still win the championship. But it's been in the past. If you lose a game, your season's
pretty much done.
Pretty much, you're not going to win a championship.
Nope.
But that is a good point because when I have heard people talk about 18 playoffs, it's like, okay, well then whoever ends up 9 is going to bitch.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be like, well, we beat the team that finished 3rd, but then we finished 9th because we had 2 losses. Or whatever it is. Yeah. So, I mean, there's not a perfect system, but I kind of like that. I've been kind of dead set on my 8 with the 5, but I kind of like the 6.
Nick Zahn coming in with a great idea.
Yeah, it's good.
Woo, love it.
Let's call up the committee.
all right. Let's get Tom Osborne on the phone. All right.
Yeah, he's not in anything.
I know. Anymore. Let's talk to Condoleezza Rice. Let's get a hold of her. If you're listening, Condoleezza, we want to talk to you. Maybe she follows us on Twitter. I don't know. All right. We'll get into the Huskers here in a minute. We're almost at an hour, so we're gonna try to wrap things up here pretty quick. So the red shirt rule. So used to be where obviously your red shirt. If you pull your red shirt,
if you play one snap, you're done.
You're done. Your red shirt's done. You no longer have 5 years of eligibility or 5 years on the team. So red shirt rule now, you can play in 4 games. 4 games. That's including even if they go to the playoff. So let's say they play 2 games in the regular season and they go to the playoff and they want to play 2 games of the playoff. Boom! You play 4 games. Yeah. You can play it. You're red shirt. You still have red shirt.
It's fantastic. Not only do I think it will help Nebraska, I think it will help a lot of teams and just college football as a whole. I don't know why they haven't done something like this before.
I think it's good for football because you have guys that come in as redshirt freshmen that have a lot of talent. Even if they don't have the most talent, you give them a chance to come off the bench and play a little bit, or in a live game,
or you let a kid go out there and see what he's got. Okay, he's not there yet. We can redshirt him. Yep. But if somebody comes in that's really good and then you play him, then you can play him for the whole season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Adrian Martinez comes in and we play him the first 4 games and he's not quite there yet. Okay, we can still redshirt him.
Do you have to redshirt him before the season starts?
I don't know.
I guess I didn't look into that. That's something we might have to look into. I think you have to technically be a redshirt first for it to be pulled. I don't know if you can play 4 games and then redshirt them after that. I don't know. Something to look into. I should have looked more into that.
I don't see why not.
I agree.
You come in and you haven't played before, and you can play 4 games and then.
So, there's a lot of good things around. I think the redshirt rule. I think it's a good thing. You look at someone like I can't think of his name.
Are you talking about Nebraska? Or?
Yes. Who was our running? Bradley?
You talking about Trey Bryant?
Yeah, Trey Bryant.
Oh no, you're talking about Jalen Bradley.
Yeah, when Jalen Bradley was a redshirt
freshman.
freshman.
Because he could now have 4 years of eligibility. Because we could have played him for 4 games last year.
Yep.
And
he's good. He's got speed. So he's one of those guys that's a good example for, obviously, the Huskers. You could have played him in 4 games last year, and it probably could have made a difference, not only for him to get some game experience.
I think it'll be good, too, with, we're going to have a lot of skill position players, running back, wide receiver, tight end type players that I think we can go out and give those guys some experience, and then they still have 4 years left.
Now,
it's great.
Now, I was reading some of the coaches' response from the Power 5 schools on the redshirt rule, and I see the devil's advocate view of it, and I couldn't agree more. You could potentially have more transfers happen because of this.
No, it's definitely going to happen.
If those redshirt freshmen get to play late in the season and they excel. Because then you're going to have a guy that's, hey, I've been playing good all year. You brought them in. They played really well. I don't feel like I'm going to start over them next year. I'm going to transfer. So you're going to have more
but they're going to have
to
sit out a year.
Yeah, but you're going to have more of that happen.
I have seen...
Going to a bowl game after 3 weeks or more practice, so the freshmen might be ready to use the big bowl game. Could change bowl prep for teams. Knowing freshmen is sneaky good, they have never been.
No, that's very true. And too, what I do like about the rule is, you're playing it. You're 6-6 or 7-5, and you're playing a team that's 6-6 or 7-5 in a bowl game, and maybe your quarterback's a senior, so you want to let him play, but maybe he's a sophomore, maybe he's a junior.
Yeah.
And you have a guy that you're redshirting. That's a freshman quarterback. Redshirt freshman quarterback. You can play him in that game because the game doesn't matter.
Yeah.
and then he gets some experience.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I think there's a lot more pros than there are cons to the game.
Right. There's cons.
I think you'll see some more transfers, but I don't know if it'll be as big as people think. Maybe for some of the bigger schools that have the playoff chance, but if they're not in contention for a playoff, it's not going to affect a lot of schools.
One topic I have heard this off season is, with transferring, because it's not fair that coaches can go. So they can leave a school and coach right away. Whereas
sit out a year.
A kid redshirted, and then now he's going to transfer and he's going to have to sit out a year, or whatever. Or maybe he played, but then he's going to have to sit out a year.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, if you could transfer and play right away. But
I think
that would be worse for transfers, because then. J.D. Spielman comes in last year and kills it, and Nebraska goes 4-8, and then Alabama or USC or UCLA comes in and says, "Hey, why don't you come play for us?" And then if you can transfer and play right away, that's just not right.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think they could do some more things with the transfer rule as well, but I think there's more cons than pros than that.
For sure.
So, it's from an opposing view. Anyways, so a lot of good things. I think the redshirt rule, I think that's a positive thing for college football. I think it will make a difference as well. All right, let's talk Nebraska football. We've been waiting long enough. I've been dying to talk it. I hate talking about all these other teams. Like I said, I'm trying to not be as biased this year, but it's really hard when you have it's a strong hate for some of these teams or coaches, but
you just love Nebraska so much.
Go Big Red. Anyways, a lot of exciting things coming this year. We got a whole new coaching crew. We got Scott Frost on board. Everyone, the Frost is coming. I mean, I tell you what, the amount of T-shirts I've seen, I think with Scott Frost,
I think I have 5.
I have 1. But anyways, there's so much hype around Nebraska football and so much excitement. I have never, in my 31 years of life, even when we were in national championship contention or winning the national championships, seen this amount of excitement in the state of Nebraska about Nebraska football. I have friends that are more of an NBA fan, an NFL fan, than they are college football, and they are excited to watch this year's football team, even if we go 4-8.
We're not going to go 4-8. We do have a tough schedule.
I said even if, but
I think, the difference will be if we went 6-6 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're going to be competing in games. I believe that we will be in every game, and if not almost every game.
And you know damn well if a player is not competing against a team like Ohio State, if they are not competing the way they should, they will not be playing.
Well, and that's
Frost is going to pull their ass, put them on the bench, put someone in there that wants to play.
It's been kind of funny because we've had some players that have committed, some recruits that have committed, and they might be a 3-star, or they might be a little bit undersized, or they might they didn't have offers from Ohio State and Alabama and all these.
We also have a lot of in-state walk-ons.
That's true as well, but they're going after certain types of players.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go after a kid that's being recruited by all the top dogs.
Yeah.
As long as they are going to work hard and going to do what
the coaches want them to.
Coaches are trying to do here.
They're going to work their ass off in the weight room.
Right, and we don't have to win the championship next year. We don't have to win the national championship next year. There's a reason we gave Scott Frost 7 years. As long as we compete in every game, then next year,
get better.
We're even better. And then 3-4 years, we're going to be playing Oklahoma in a couple of years.
Yeah.
From now.
But
that's great.
That's the thing too. You got these 3, 4, 5-star recruits. Okay, so who's giving them these stars? Who's calling them 3 or 4 stars? What makes you
Amir Abdullah was a 2-star running back.
What makes you a 4-star? What makes you a 5-star? So I don't buy into that much as I buy into the coaches that are coaching these players. These are young kids. They're impressionable. You have to have the right coaches in place to make a difference. You have, and these coaches for Nebraska, a lot of people are kind of on the fence about a couple of them, but if you aren't sold yet, you need to watch a little bit more about what's going on in Husker Nation, because there is so many good things going on with these coaches where they are pushing these players. They're building speed. They're building muscle. They're building confidence with their guys, and they are not going to give them sprinkles and ice cream at the end of the game. They're going to give them hot coal or something. I don't know. They're going to make them work for what they earn every year.
I'll have to share a video. So my nephew, he's 10 years old. He went to Scott Frost camp a few weekends ago. Football camp down in Lincoln. And, I mean, I don't think Frost was running the whole thing, but it was like...
But he was there.
He was there, and it was a lot of players and coaches that were running it. And he gave a speech at the end of it to all the kids, and some dad took a video of it. I shared it on my personal page. I'll share it on here. It's incredible.
Yeah.
He is just like, who wants to play football here? And it's just all about like working hard and like don't take school for granted, and like it's just like so many good things.
His message is positive. It's not, you don't need to be the best player on the field, but no one is going to work harder than you.
Right. And that was the best coaches that I've had.
If you work harder than the person next to you, you're going to have the best opportunities, whether it's in life, whether it's in school, whether it's on the field. No one needs to work harder than you. So your goal shouldn't be to be the best. Your goal should be to work harder than the person next to you, and you will get to where you want to be in life. And his message is not just about football. His message is so much bigger than that. He also talked about, I posted it on our page on Two Average Guys a couple days ago, his social media message about, hey, if there's pictures of you with guns, and no, he's not talking about hunting. He is talking
I saw somebody said something.
He is not talking about hunting. He said if you're racist, if you have anything slandering women, anything berating, anything that's bullying on your Facebook, he goes, we will check. We will check recruits. We will check our current players.
Right,
we will check your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram.
If you go to get a job, what do you think that that employer is looking at?
They're smart.
Looking at your social media.
So, and as someone who does recruiting, I do.
Yes.
And guess what? You see somebody with a racist picture, or someone who's holding up a gun like this, and
or somebody that's got weed or something.
Do you think I want to hire them? No. So, Coach Frost is looking at this as, I want to know what kind of character you have, what kind of person you are. Because if you have good character, you're a good person, you can be a great football player. Because you're already here. We're already recruiting you, or you're already on the team. If your character shows up, you could be a hell of a good football player, and you're going to be a hell of a lot better person because of that as well. And that's what I like his messages is. It's not, once again, it's not about football. He's trying to build up the character of these people. Character, attitude, perseverance, work ethic. Those are the kind of things that are going to make a football team great, win or lose.
Well, and adding on to that, I think something that has changed over the years that he's trying to bring back, obviously, is the walk-ons, especially from the state of Nebraska. But I think he's kind of showing these kids that, hey, all right, the top kids in the state, you're probably going to get scholarship offers. But if you're not necessarily one of the top, you might be able to get a scholarship offer at South Dakota State or North Dakota State, maybe not, whatever. But if you come here and you just bust your ass, you're going to earn a scholarship.
Yeah, you'll earn it.
And then you're going to play.
Yeah. If you don't get one,
that's
you're gonna
that's what we did. That's what we used to do. And the teams were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the state of Nebraska has great talent, but
it does though. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. Yeah.
Especially in the Omaha and Lincoln, and even
Kearney, Cree.
Boys. Yeah.
I mean, you got
some
a lot
of those
places.
guys. Beatrice.
Yeah. So I think the coaching mentality is what happened at UCF. We went 0-12. And then we went 13-0.
We went 6-6, and then 13-0.
Yeah, sorry. 0-12, 6-6.
6-6 with a bowl.
But they were 0-12 beforehand.
They were 0-12.
So then 6-6, and then you go 13-0. I mean, what kind of player would not want to play for coaches like that, who had the attitude of, we're going to work your ass off, and we're going to make sure that you care about what you're doing every day on that field. You're looking out for the person next to you on the field, not just for yourself. You will not be a selfish player on this team. Those are the kind of people they want to recruit. They don't care about a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, or 2-star. It doesn't matter who you are. It's about your character. It's about your perseverance. It's about how hard you're going to work and how much you're going to stand up for the person sitting next to you.
And I did see something that said players were saying that workouts were brutal, but brutal in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think it was more like, we know that we haven't either had the workouts the last couple of years or we're behind right now.
Yeah.
We need to come back. We need to get up to the level that we need to be at.
Yep.
And it's
and look at some of the guys. Some of the guys that are going to have breakout years, I think, this year. We know what J.D. Spielman can do.
We know what Stanley Morgan can do.
We know what Stanley Morgan can do. I think we saw a glimpse of what Tyjon Lindsey can do.
He's going to end up being
a glimpse of what he can do. He's going to be good. You got Bradley in the backfield. You have Bryant in the backfield.
If healthy. You also have Greg Bell.
You have Bell. And you have...
who are you thinking about? What position?
Running back.
I mean, we have Trey Bryant, Jalen Bradley.
Was he a senior last year? Who's the guy? 34. He graduated?
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Who was the main back last year when Bryant got hurt?
Well, Azigbo. Divine Azigbo.
Oh, Azigbo's still there. Yes. Yes.
So Divine Azigbo's still there. So we have a stacked running back core. We have tight ends. We have more tight ends than probably we've ever had.
Right.
I think our tight end game is going to be strong. We got good wide receivers. We have an offensive line who's matured and is going to be bigger and faster this year because they're being pushed.
Are we on the same page? Quarterback?
Yeah. Martinez?
Yes.
Martinez is
You want
going to
Martinez?
I think Martinez is going to start.
I think...
But I still think... I don't...
we start him for, because I think you could redshirt, but I don't know, because if they come into campus early, I don't know how that works.
Tight ends rule, that's right. So,
yes.
I think Armstrong... I think that Martinez is a starter. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
He just has the size, he has the look, he can run. It's just like everything that we want, or at least that I want. But am I running?
I do think you got Jebby and you got Bunch right there with him. I think both of those guys have a good opportunity to play this year. Maybe not start, but I think they have a good opportunity to play when they need them because both those guys, I mean, even the spring game, maybe Bunch wasn't on the winning team, but I think he showed what he could do. He has some good passes downfield. I think with some game experience, as the year goes on, I think we have three really good quarterbacks. And who's the guy starts with a V?
Noah Vedral, he can't play,
but I think he's got a good opportunity next year when he can play. I think we have a good, solid
crazy.
core.
Plus, we're gonna have McCaffrey coming in,
and Luke McCaffrey's coming,
which was a great
pickup.
Great pickup.
So I think there's a lot of exciting things.
Redshirt him, have him get behind Martinez. That's my thinking. But.
So I think we have a young team, and we got some veterans on the team as well, some seniors that I think can lead the freshmen, and the freshmen with some good leadership skills to help the seniors be the best they can be.
I'm also very excited to see Will Honus
Yes.
tear it up at linebacker. I know Levante David is an outside linebacker, but he seems so much like Levante David, who is one of my favorite Huskers ever. Plays for my Bucks.
Yep.
So
yeah, I think it's gonna be an exciting year for Husker fans. No matter what the record is, I think there's a lot of hype, and I think the hype is real. I don't think it's hype that people are gonna be like, hey, it's just hype. No, I think the coaching staff, they're saying all the right things. They are busting the tails of these players. If you follow any of the players on Twitter, I mean, they tell you what's going on the field. They tell you what's going on in the weight room and on the practice field. They're getting their butts whooped right now.
They're saying the right things, but I think they're doing the right things.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is more important. So
they're walking and they're talking at the same time.
You know, the last couple of years, I know we went 9-3 the previous year, but those last few games were pretty tough to watch, and they're kind of blowouts.
Yeah.
Or a couple of the games anyway. Bowl game, Ohio State and Iowa. And then obviously last year was just unbearable to watch. Yeah. I think even if we lose games, I think we're going to be in the game through three quarters, you know, taking it down inside the fourth quarter, maybe losing late, you know, or maybe down by a few, coming back. Either way, I'm calling 8-4. I'm calling 8-4.
All right, 8-4. I'll take. I'm gonna do 7-5. I don't know if we'll win 8.
I'm pretty ambitious, and I know you said be realistic. I'm not trying to say that I think we're gonna.
I don't think 8-4 is unrealistic.
No, it's not. We have to win a couple games on the road.
Yep.
Our games on the road this year are very tough.
Yes.
But if we can steal a couple on the road, and if we can beat Michigan State at home, I think we can go 8-4.
See, we're still over 2 months out, and we're just jacked about this season. I hope you guys are jacked too. I mean, whether you're a Husker fan or not, Notre Dame, no matter who you like, you should be jacked about the season. And I'm excited just because college football is right around the corner. If you're an NBA fan, NBA's done. If you're a hockey fan, hockey's done. If you watch golf, golf's only on, a few days. If you watch golf, a couple days a weekend, you might watch Friday or Saturday, Sunday. If you're an MLB fan, MLB's on every night right now. College World Series is almost done. So there's a lot of things coming. College football is right around the corner, 2 months away. Last thing I want to say that has to do anything with college football, but not really anymore. Mike Riley, ice cream melts a hell of a lot faster in San Antonio, so you better have a lot of sprinkles, and you better freeze that shit before you give it to any of your players down there after losing games. So good luck. Go Big Red.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. Good luck to you, Mike Riley, but go Big Red.
We're Two Average Guys, and appreciate you guys listening to the first show. Once again, we're back next week. We're going to have Ashley Farrell from the ex-Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, ex-Husker Scarlet, big avid football fan for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So check it out. We'll be here next week. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for the conversations. I'll get the podcast loaded as soon as I possibly can. You guys have a good rest of the evening. Once again, I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
And we're Two Average Guys. Take care, guys.
See you next week. You want me to shut that off?
Yeah, you can't.